my whole thing now is like understanding that everything is about happiness and health essentially. Like happiness comes from within you, and your health is what keeps you going and keeps you moving. So it's like, as long as those two are in fairly good shape, then nothing else really matters that much. Money doesn't matter, where you live, like the rest of it doesn't really matter. It's all kind of internal stuff.
Yeah.
So it's, and you know, like I talk about a lot, is like the internal experience that we have is what creates the external experience in terms of the reality that we live in that moment. So it's not the fact that, you know, I've just bashed my knee on the table that has caused me to be really annoyed. It's the way I've experienced that moment through my thinking and my feeling. Because there's times where I've bashed my knee on the table and I laugh it off, and there's other times where I bash my knee on the table and I'm like, oh fuck's sake, like, oh Jesus, like, like screwing for the rest of the day. But it's like those two things are exactly the same. So why have I reacted differently to one than the other? And the only difference is the internal experience of that event, of that moment, and how you then let that affect you by attaching yourself to the thoughts and the feelings that come with it.
Because that's what, like, I practice meditation, which I know obviously you do as well, and that's what that's essentially a lot of that's about, isn't it? Removing yourself and becoming aware of the watcher. You know, and you are not at a given moment, you are not angry. You just feel an anger. As soon as you realise that, you can remove yourself from that. Yeah,
but then there's also the difference between the the observer and the observed. Like if you're observing the observer, you're not in that place that you need to be in, because you're thinking about observing the observer. It's when you take all of that out, that's when you get into the really interesting stuff. That's those moments you have in life where you don't even realize that you're in the moment until you snap yourself out of it. Like the best example of it is like if you're sitting watching a sunset with like a mate or a partner or whatever, and you're just admiring the beauty of it. You're not really judging it. You're not really going, oh, look at the colors, look at the thing. It's not until that other person says, oh, look how beautiful the colors are, that you come out of the moment and you go, oh yeah, the colors are really nice. You've kind of snapped yourself out of it. Because you're totally there. You haven't got the thoughts. You're just with the moment. And that is essentially the core of living, the core of our existence. That's the core of our human experience. And then the thinking gets in the way all the time.
It's hard, isn't it? It's so hard.
It's when you start getting involved in the thinking rather than the doing. Because those moments that we have of that clarity, of that pure living, are the moments where you're not even realizing you're not thinking, because you're just in that moment of clarity. And that is living. That is life. That is the moment that we're all trying to strive for, but we don't know how to get it, because the more we try to get it, the further away you get from it, because you're creating two polar opposites. The second you say to yourself, I want to get this, you're also creating a possibility of, I'm not going to get this feeling, this moment, because they exist in the same world. They exist in that same space. They can't, like, I want this and I'm not going to have this, can't exist separately. They're part of the same space, as is everything. They're part of the same coin. And I've used this as an explanation recently. Like, you can't have those opposites in life without the other. Like, they exist, like, literally as that same side of the coin. So the more you try to get rid of one side of the coin, it's always going to exist as long as the other side of the coin does. So it's about not putting yourself in a situation where you're going, I want this, I don't want this, I love this, I hate that. Like, because the more you create those labels, the more restricted you make yourself, instead of just seeing things for what they are, accepting it, dealing with it, getting on with it, and crack on again. Like, again, don't get me wrong, I still do that all the time. But it's about understanding that's what I'm doing all the time.
Have you seen any patterns? Like you said, that's what we're all striving for, but you don't necessarily know how to get there. Have you seen any patterns, or are you aware of any instances, recurring instances, where you are getting into those moments and you can say, do you know what, when I do that, or when I'm in that situation, that's when I'm at my most blissful and present? I'm
starting to see more in different spaces. So like for me, it was always working out. It was always like going to the gym I'd be so totally engrossed in what I'm doing that the rest of the thinking of what's happening with my day, what's happening with this person. Has Sally contacted me about this thing? Has Anton got back to me about the recording we're doing next week? You know, all of that stuff isn't there. And what I used to find is the second I stepped back out the gym doors, all of that stuff would come straight back in.
Yeah.
So that was definitely one moment. And that's why I like to go in the morning, because it sets me up for the day in terms of like getting into that clarity from, you know, early in the morning. Another one for me right now is walking. Like, because going back to the bad back that I had, I've just been doing lots and lots of long walks in the morning, like loads of long walks along the canal, along the park near my flat. Reading's another great one. If you're totally engrossed in a book for an hour, that is a form of that experience, that living, because you're totally engrossed in the book. You're not worried about when your next paycheck is. You're not worried about what you're having for dinner tomorrow. You're not worried about, has Jonathan got back to you about, you know, the drink you're supposed to be going for, you know, next week or whatever it is. You're totally engrossed in that moment. So that's another one for me. Having good conversations like this. I'm not really thinking about anything else other than, that's why I love doing the interviews, because I'm totally in those conversations. Having conversations in general is another one for me. Mm-hmm. Like yesterday I had a really great day. I had lunch with a friend. Then I came, met my friend David, picked up some keys. We had a quick catch up for like 20 minutes. Then I went and got my hair cut. I found a new barber and he was really cool, lovely. We were having a really good chat. Yeah. And off the back of those 3 things in the space of like 5 hours, I was flying. Yeah. Because I was so engrossed in those moments that level of clarity and consciousness and life and living was just gushing through me, that it was just spreading out into everything else. And it totally affects, you know, your day, because it's coming from the inside. It's not coming from me walking away going, oh, you know, this is a really great conversation. I'm having this guy while he's cutting my hair. And it's actually because I was so engrossed in the conversation, that clarity, that experience is coming from the inside, and the outward experience of it is what comes through the clarity and the raising of your consciousness and your energy or your vibration or your, you know, awareness or, you know, whatever you want to call it.
This is flow state, isn't it?
Flow state, yeah. It's been called flow state. But again, it's like, if you say to someone, how do you get into flow state? You can't just go, right, I'm going to be in flow state now. It doesn't work like that, because you create, the second you say, I'm going to get in flow state, you're also saying, I can't get into flow state. So you're creating the conflict.